I can hear you. No video though, no?
Right. It's not a bad thing, mate. Just to say.
With no image. Ah, there you go, young man. How are you getting on?
Just moving stuff around. So just finishing my tea off. I was a bit hungry.
Yorkshire puddings and a cup of tea.
Mate, you'd be surprised. Who made Yorkshire puddings? Well, obviously you won't be surprised. But...
Have you had a busy day?
Not too bad. Been out for a little walk down to the farm shop. Got some nice fresh meat. Went to the gym.
Good.
No taller, but I lifted a few bits and bobs.
Very good. Have you much planned for the weekend, or is it just lockdown still?
Well, I'm a bit excited about one kicking off soon, so I'll fingers crossed we can see what happens with that, and then start making some plans maybe for next week. I know it's a little bit different your end, isn't it? You're not quite as flexible as we are at the moment.
No, we're still we don't even enter our phase one until Monday. So yeah, it's been quite strict over here, but certainly, look, it is what it is. We're all dealt with the same card at the minute, so I think just same as everybody, we're dying to get a bit of cricket in somewhere, but how much we'll get this season is going to be very much up to how people behave, I think.
Yeah, I think with us being a week ahead of you, I think you can hopefully learn from what's happening this end, though, can't you? So if people are saying this can work, then rather than you hanging about, you can jump straight on. Because I know the Netherlands have been doing some really good stuff, and I've leapfrogged on a few of their things in preparation for what they're looking to do. ECB released stuff today talking about one-to-one, so that's promising. I mean, the worry is, though, they're going to hold clubs back as long as they can, because it's all right doing a one-to-one, but if your mate invites his mate, then his mate, then his mate, before you know it, you've got a team there, haven't you? So that's
true. True. No, I see the ECB have released a screenshot of their what you can or your do's and don'ts today. There's been that knocking around a lot of the clubs.
Well, I mean, I'll be adding a few things to that. So from my point of view, I think when you're working on a bowling machine, I'm the only one that picks the balls up. That way you save cross-contamination. I've got red and white swing balls that we'll be using because they're a compressed plastic. So I can wipe all them down after every bowling spell. So obviously you can't really wipe a cricket ball down, can you? So we've got them and they're going to work really well. So I've got them in seniors and juniors as well. So it'd be the right weight of a ball. You'll see the red and white travel and you can create swings. So it's as real as you're going to get, but also keeping it as clean as you can as well. So I'm hoping that'll work out well for us.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, listen, there's lots of things. I think we're all still learning. We're obviously reliant on what Cricket Ireland are going to enforce or ask us to do, and I'm sure on a weekly basis, they tend to be meeting and bringing a little bit more information. We're looking at probably starting weekend of the 25th of July, if all goes to plan. But yeah, look, it is what it is. It's disappointing for people because everybody looks so forward to coming through to the cricket season. It's disappointing when you get there and you can't physically get, especially when the weather's as nice as it has been as well.
Yeah, it was typical that, wasn't it? Best pre-season ever.
Yeah. Robert, do we have everybody in? Do you know?
I'd say work away, because anyone else who pops in, I can just add them in. There's no panic. So
listen, guys, just a quick one there. This is a long-time friend of mine, Simon Guy. He is the knowledge of what goes on in cricket, in coaching. He's played professionally. In fact, I tell you what, Simon, would you just give a brief insight to who you are, what you do, and what your current jobs are or roles are at the minute? And then we'll get cracking with a few questions from some of the lads. Is that all right?
Yeah. I'm not as good as making out in any of those remits whatsoever. I was extremely lucky as a player. So I was at Yorkshire for 16 years, 11 years on the first class staff. I was a wicket-keeper batsman because I'm 2'3" and I had no chance of bowling 90 mile an hour. cricketing background point of view, I grew up in a cricketing family. That's kind of how we know Wobbly. And both my brothers were world-beaters. So my job as a child was to go and fetch balls for them. That was it. My dad was a wicket keeper. He was miles better than I ever was. But he was an outstanding wicket keeper.
Actually, I have a little picture of your dad. I mean, Robert will pop it up on screen when he can. But it was in the advertiser, I would say, probably 1987. There you go. Can you see it?
I remember the picture. It's not like you to be hitting it leg side by any chance, is it?
Hey, listen, that's the only one I missed in that game.
I think that says SS333. They used to weigh about 15 pounds then, didn't they?
It was £3 2 ounces, that bat. It was a beautiful. I'll give you an extra bonus point, Simon, if you can tell me who was bowling.
Let's see. It looks like Mick Fairman.
No. Would have been your overseas that year. A Gujarati lad, I believe.
Tosharoff?
Yeah, Toshi, yeah.
Mishar Arote.
Yeah. You know him, Sid?
He was a serious player, was Toshi. Do you know what he's doing now? He's working with the England women. Oh, sorry, Indian women.
Indian women, yeah, he's coach of Indian women.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal player, lovely human being as well. Typical Indian, just a brilliant, wonderful human being, and an absolutely phenomenal cricketer. You know, he was very gracious, but I'll tell you what, if you need someone to win a game, you'd toss your hat to him any day. But
he was class.
Bits. That's kind of how I fell into cricket. So rugby was my other passion, and that kind of went like that. All my brothers played at the same club as my dad. I played at a different club. I played at Phoenix at times with Andy. So I used to get dropped off 5 hours before the game started because my dad would never be late for his game, and that was loads of fun. And I kind of just fell into cricket from there. At 13 years old, my dad said, "Don't keep wicket because it'll knock your knees and your hands up." So obviously the first time that somebody said who wants to keep wicket, my hand immediately went up. And it kind of grew from there, really. And I think I was lucky to a certain degree that a lot of it was self-taught. I'm by no means saying that is the only way, but I had a lot of freedom because my dad and my brothers were off doing their thing, and I didn't have anyone telling me what I was doing right and what I was doing wrong. So I had to learn on the job a lot. And trust me, I did a lot of things wrong, but it helped my capacity for change and learning go really quick. I think sometimes we get lots of good information from people, we get lots of bad information, and I had none of anything. It was just literally trying to figure it out as I went along. And I think the kind of person that I am, that really helped me. I'm sure other people might find that challenging and need lots of feedback and support, but I just had a free rein, and I was lucky. Like I said, both my brothers were world beaters. I was not, but it just happened that I found a skill that really applied to me, and I loved it. And we were lucky that we could play 7 days a week. You know, we had that Indian mentality then where you just played cricket all day. Whereas now it's a little bit more challenging with the restrictions with bowlers and obviously managing people from the experience we have as coaches and players. So that's kind of my playing side. I was lucky enough to play. I went through Yorkshire Academy, and then onto the first class staff. And like I said, I was lucky to play for 11 years at Yorkshire with some phenomenal players, and again some wonderful players as well. So that was kind of my playing side. But through all those cricketing developments as a player, I spent a lot of time in coaching. I was interested in how other people coached, how could I coach, you know, how could I support people. So my natural preference, first of all, as a young coach, was moving into cricket keeping as a specialism and helping lots of people at the Yorkshire Cricket Board. Then as I progressed through there, I was lucky enough to actually finish my level 4 at the same time that I finished playing cricket for Yorkshire. And I wouldn't recommend to anybody doing your level 4 while you are still a county cricketer, because there's enough going on without trying to manage both bases. But I managed to get through it, and I bounced straight from there onto an England tour. Lucky enough that on that tour was people like Butler, Roots, Stokes. You know, there were some unbelievable players on that. So I ended up going away as a coach on that tour. Spent about 6 or 7 years with England 17s, England 19s. Worked around many counties, so I've done stuff with Derbyshire, done stuff with Worcester, involved in minor counties. I played a couple of years of minor counties, which wasn't anything I had any interest in. One of my mentors dragged me down there and said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to coach him." And then he said, "Why, you might as well play." So, but even though it wasn't what I was expecting, it was a great learning opportunity. Being in those environments, being at Yorkshire where it's very brutal at times, you know, to then see a different side of things was really lucky for me. I've had lots of exposure at the highest possible level, and then obviously your class minor counties as just above league cricket. So for me, it was really lucky to see lots of things. And now my main role is I'm director of cricket at Denstone College. I support Sheffield Collegiate as a coach and still as a player, which is Joe Root and Michael Vaughan's club. I work for the ECB, delivering their level 3 module. That's why I've been lucky enough to come over to Ireland and work with the cricket board over there as well. What else? I scout for England as well. So I do 1,000,001 things. Equal average at all of them, but I try really hard. I'll give you that.
Come on. No. Listen, that's very good. That should give you a little bit of a background of what Simon's all about, guys. So do you want to start firing a few questions at Simon? Robert, do we have any order, or is it just shoot from the hip type of thing?
I'd say shoot from the hip. I think Dermot want to kick us off?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hi Simon. So anyway, the last couple of nights I've been involved in kind of question and answer sessions with Paul Sterling and Kevin O'Brien. And one thing I picked up from them was that they work kind of 80% of their training sessions on their strengths, or kind of like to perfect their strengths rather than their weaknesses. And I found that interesting. And I was just wondering, as a coach, what would you think about that?
Yeah, there's been a massive twist over the past 4 or 5 years in the modern style of working on things. I mean, if you look at lots of players that they immediately go to that, oh, what am I not good at? I need to work on that. And you think, well, you can spend a lot of time with things. I mean, there is a threshold that things have to live at. If you're going to play county cricket or international cricket, your weaknesses still need to be above the threshold. If your weaknesses are below the threshold, you've got to do something about it. One of the best examples here, some of the older players might know a guy called Steve Waugh, the Waugh brothers who played for Australia. And when he first came into playing for Australia, they used to get him out pulling. They used to bounce him, he'd take it on and get out pulling. And he decided to just bin off playing the pull shot. He's a parked it. Now, in the modern game, you would say that is ludicrous. You need to be able to pull in the modern game. And he said that it gets me out more times than not. And he said I could spend loads and loads of man hours on that, working really hard at being a better puller, but then I might only improve 5%. Whereas I could work at my strengths and that might improve 20%. So I would say I completely agree with that, because we don't naturally focus on our strengths. We think that training is about making our weaknesses better. If your weakness is manageable and acceptable and above the threshold, you can live with that. You've just got to accept, how do I build that into my game? But like I say, it's an individual thing, but I do think a good thing working with your players, whether older or younger, is get them to make a list of things. What is your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And then start to break into pieces. Is your weakness above the threshold? Yes, brilliant. We can still work on that, but we might then invest more of our time in this strength here. So for instance, your strength might be playing against spin, and then you break it down again. So it might be hitting spin over the top, sweeping, reversing, hitting gaps, rotating strike, knocking off line. There's so many elements you can break it up into. So I think I'm just looking up at my books at the moment. Most of my books have got pictures in, but bear with me. There is a, 1 second. I'm back. Okay, so strength finder. Now, mate, it all comes from here. None of that. But this is a good little read, and that's probably what we've talked about. And it talks about that, working out what your strengths are and focusing time and energy on that. And one of the great things that I love about coaching is it moves around everywhere. So you can be a cricket coach, you can be a director of a business, you can be a school teacher. All these elements kind of fall into it. So that, I think, I like teaching. Sorry, let's think of it. Teaching versus coaching are very different elements. I think coaching is the luxurious one, where it allows you to be yourself and create an environment and a culture. At times, teaching can be a lot of telling. Not always, but it can be a lot of telling. Whereas as a coach, a lot of my stuff, I want to ask questions. I want to find out. I want to put you in positions where you can learn where you can get things wrong. Sometimes as teachers, we're a bit restrained in allowing people to get things wrong. You know, sport's great, and business, it's encouraging people to do those things. But from a strengths point of getting back to it, sorry, I went off on a tangent there. I think definitely, but just be wary, because sometimes if people follow that route, they'll say, right, let's go and work on your 2 strengths now. But unfortunately, the 2 weaknesses you have are well below the threshold. So no matter how hard you work up here, you're not going to bat long enough to get them into the game. Or as a bowler, you know, you get hit out the attack before you get a chance to bowl your 3rd over. So it's just making sure that those weaknesses are above the threshold, or acceptable weaknesses versus unacceptable. I would say that would be a really good characteristic. If you can get on that strength stuff, brilliant. But just make sure the other elements match up with where you're trying to go with your players.
Cool, thanks.
Good question, D. Good question, buddy.
Yeah, it was a belter to start. I feel under pressure now. I love it.
So we have an easy one there. Who's next?
Okay, easy one. Yorkshire, Lancashire, which is better?
I've got my girlfriend sat opposite me right now, who's actually from Lancashire, so no matter what's happening, it's going to be Yorkshire. But I think I'm really lucky as a Yorkshireman, though, because I've travelled into different counties and worked with different people, worked with some of the best coaches. Honestly, I'm so lucky. And I think that's really helped me, because, excuse my language here, but as a Yorkshireman, sometimes you'll probably know with Andy, they have their head up the backside a little bit. And I think the best human beings are born in Yorkshire, obviously, but then get themselves out of Yorkshire. And I think there's so many great elements about Yorkshire as a cricket and as a culture. I'd like to say, it's like being an Indian. It is life. It is a passion. It is a love. We all know cricket has highs and lows, but in Yorkshire, you know, that's kind of how it comes across. And I know it doesn't every other county, but, you know, I can only speak about my own. But by being that kind of person, but being lucky enough to get out into different counties, countries, environments, cultures, I think it has helped me become a slightly more well-rounded coach and human being. Andy's obviously going to have to spend a lot of time working on him, but good luck with that.
I guess just a serious one for me. It's more around like the mental grind as you found as a player on the county scene, and how did you manage that? And as a coach, how do you help the players manage like the mental grind of a cricket season, like the highs and lows and the, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everyone that's sat here who's ever played the game will know the highs and lows are amazing and horrendous. We've all been through those things, and we all have different ways of managing it. I think it's hard. I think over the past couple of years, there's been loads more information come out about how difficult it is. I mean, in all sports, you know, the stress and the strain. You know, some of us might rock up to work, and if I rocked up to work and dropped 10 catches and didn't get a run, I lose my job. You know, it can be as brutal as that. And at the end of the day, we've all got to pay us bills, and we've got kids and mortgages, and so it's just managing those stress and strain. And I think the better coaches I think there's a big difference between being a coach and being a manager. So the best man managers or woman managers or people who support human beings, you know, engage in those conversations and aren't afraid to share the things, you know, that they found challenging, because the county season is brutal. You know, you get limited time at home. When you do get home, you're packing your bag again to go again. And chatting to people that played the game in eras before me. I mean, they used to play 3-day cricket and Sunday league cricket. And they used to play, I think it was like Friday, Saturday. Then the 3-day game would stop. Then they'd drive somewhere to play a Sunday league game, drive back to carry on the game on Monday. And you're thinking, it's just ludicrous. And so I think because people know more about it now, I think the stress and strains are always there. But I do think there's a lot more support. The Professional Cricketers Association, I'm sure Ireland have their version, is phenomenal. You know, the stuff they do for the players, to be able to just speak to people sometimes. I mean, look at other sports, you know, there's gambling issues, drinking issues. There's all sorts going on. It can be a phenomenal place, but it can also be a very lonely place. You know, traveling in hotels, in your own room, away from your kids, away from your wife, your husband, whatever it might be. It can be difficult, and you do have to be a human being that has really good ways of managing that. Otherwise, it can go pear-shaped very quickly. I mean, I was chatting to the girlfriend about it, 'cause obviously I've got to be careful what I say. But in the era that I joined first-class cricket, it was going through a massive transition. So it was going from the good old days where you went out for a beer every night after the game and you were in the nightclub till 2 o'clock and then rocked up and played, to actually being athletes. You know, and I was lucky. I was in the transition where I was still able to get up in the morning and train like a lunatic, but then also go and have a few beers on the night as well. And now you don't see that with players anymore. It's a protein shake, it's an ice bath, it's off back to your room. And I think I might have found that difficult, because to have your protein shake, to get your ice bath, to get back to your room, to get some food and go to bed, it's not actually as a luxurious life as what you think it is. To then get in a bus and travel for 4 hours for the next game.
I found that tough as well, Simon.
Minus the drink, the shower and the protein shake, I'm with you. But no, so it is. But the modern era needs that. The game moves so fast now. You know, the speed of international cricket is phenomenal. You know, the scoring rates in Test cricket is always climbing. The runs that get scored in T20 and one-day cricket now is ridiculous. You know, the speed of the fielders, just the game itself needed the transition. And I was really lucky just to be part of both sides of it. I could see I might get in trouble. I should raise love. My first season of county cricket, we played against Hampshire. I think Hampshire might still be one of the very few people that invite you into the bar on one of the nights for a drink after the game. You know, clubs don't do that anymore. And I'm playing against people like Robin Smith, Shane Warne, Udall, Mullally. It's just phenomenal. And after the first day of 4 days, we're having a beer in their dressing room. And then they met us at our hotel after a bite to eat, and then they took us out for some more beers. And I'm thinking, this is the best game ever. It's amazing. Robin Smith was one of my heroes as a kid growing up. And I'm stood in a nightclub and he's buying me a beer. Shane Warne's on the other side. You've got Mullally who's in the England side behind me, and thinking, this is the best game ever. And that happened for 4 nights on the trot. And we won off the very last ball of the game. And I look back and think, how the hell did we get away with it? It was just ridiculous. I mean, I was young, stupid. I had no idea. It was just phenomenal. But the game just can't operate like that now.
Question, Robert. Should we take one from one of the younger members?
If they get off mute. Any of the Donnellys have a question?
Your question there, Niall.
Do you want to ask? Right. No. The way things are changing. No, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah, I've got you.
The way things are changing, can you see there being more remote or online working with players from a coaching perspective rather than on field?
I think you can't beat on-field interaction, but I do think there is so much more out there, remote resources now. You know, you can find so much more information from a coaching point of view, a playing point of view. I mean, there's a company that have been in touch with me actually to run their wicket-keeping module from the same point of view. And the main reason I'm going to do it is because their main remit is initially for the starting level, it's free to everyone. So I said, well, that's great. We just want information out there to help people. And then the other thing is that hopefully it can then support staff in schools and staff at clubs. So I think that's a great idea. I think the second tier of their package is going to be paid for, which is fair enough. But if it gets good stuff out there for people and gets them on the ladder and helps support them, because there's so many club coaches out there, male and female, give up so much time, have so much passion for the kids, for the game, but they have a limited level of cricket experience, and it doesn't matter. You know, the thing is that they're out there every week with the kids, getting them active, getting them to games and supporting them. That's brilliant. But if they can get onto these resources to support their knowledge, then we're laughing. I think it's great. I mean, there are bits out there, but you have got to hunt really hard to find the really good stuff. And I think, you know, the root stuff's really good. These Evictus, that's coming up as well. So there are some really good bits out there. I think the one thing I would say is if you are looking into those things, try and check up on the people first. And I'm not saying that they are not good coaches, but the one worry I might have, or I do have, is the fact of misinformation for children. Because one person's saying that, your club coach says that, then this other website says that. I mean, as a young player, you know, we could lose them, thinking, well, I don't know which direction I'm going in here. So I think just making sure that the people that are delivering the information have a real good depth of knowledge, are respected coaches, and the stuff that they can talk about, you know, they can back it up as well.
Thanks, Len.
Could you see more video learning, say you filming one of your own players and then remotely sending feedback to them, just again to reduce on that each time? You know, just because, you know, we could be limited because of social distancing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky where I am, because at my school now we have pitch vision, so all our games are live streamed. So every single one of my players can access their batting footage from a game. But also, when we're working in groups as well, I might just grab a little clip of something and fire it into their folder for them. So we have lots of that remote learning already. So we are in a really good position, and I have Dropbox folders for them as well. So I mean, it might be an example of watching someone else play, and I'll just send that over. Say, oh, have a look at this. And I mean, after we play games on Saturday, we might have a break time session on a Monday where we all come and sit in a room. They've all got a computer, and say, right, look at your own file. When you want to speak about something, let us know, and then we'll come around and talk about it. And it's for me, that's a real good way to support your players. You don't always need to rock up and say, this is what we need to do. You know, sometimes it's a case of, you have a look, tell me what you think, and then we'll discuss it. You know, you're encouraging that. I mean, England's always been big on creating the plan of self-thinking cricketers, which means you've got to give them information to say, here you go and have a look at that. But you've also got to let them get it wrong as well. You know, sometimes say, well, if you think that, let's go away and work on it and let's see what happens. I might be wrong. You know, kids are great. They've got loads of great ideas. But I think also, if you let them try something, they get it wrong, their capacity for change and learning goes through the roof. You know, don't be afraid to let them mess it up. Go and have a play with it. You know, that's why coaching is so much fun. I can let you get something wrong and we lose no sleep over it. But you as a player will have probably learned so much from that. So it probably goes back to the strength thing we talked about a minute ago. Let them go and try a weakness. Let them go and try a strength. And, you know, I mean, just before we broke up for Christmas, I did a free play session with my kids, and none of them have ever ramped a ball at 80 miles an hour before. So we broke it down to a simple skill, and we nailed it in an hour. We've got one lad who can bat all day, and it's a phenomenal skill that he has. He'll bat all day, he never played one in his life, and he was thinking, this is not my thing. I said, well, let's go open-minded, let's play with it. I said, you might never play it in a game, but you know what? At least you give it a try. And he was unbelievable. It was ridiculous. He said, I can't believe how easy it is. So, you know, just those little bits there, and that's one of those files that goes in his learning process now. You know, he might never play it, but you know what? He's give it a go. I mean, Rooty, I mean, God, how good is he at it? And people like Butler, they didn't ever said they'd played that 10 years ago, but they needed to find a way to keep up with the game. So I think remote learning is already out there. There is loads of information. It's just like you said, how we utilize it. But you're never going to get away from that, you know, that contact, that feeding information, that being out there in the moment as well, which is a great part of coaching. But like you said, the moment if we need it, we're going to have to use other ideas. I've got some, did I send you over the batting bits, Andy?
I'm not no, I don't think so.
I'll send you some off for the club if you want. I did some like batting drills and bits about a year ago with Denstone. And as soon as this went, we just sent it back out again. So there's like 50, 60 batting drills from basic to high skill to develop to playtime, just all sorts. It's just unfortunate to be demoing them, but it just gives them some ideas about little bits. And then what you can do with your players, like right now with the remote learning, is say, right, pick a clip out, replicate it, and send it back to them. Let's have a look at it. You know, as a coach, you could say, or you could even send 10 players 10 different clips and say, right, replicate this for me. And then you can put their clips together and send it back out to your whole cricket club. You know, little things like that.
We've quite a few of our coaches actually on this call this evening. So if you can fire them over, we'll distribute them throughout, and so we can have a look. So we've all the coaches there from the youth to the adult teams participating tonight. So yeah, that'd be great if you could.
Yeah, well, just copy and put your own bit on. You know, I'm sure you'll make a look considerably better looking than I do, but just play about. I did some little bits as well that were at the start of lockdown. I'll send them over as well. Just some little clips of also just really good, simple stuff that anyone will benefit from. I mean, that's a skill in lots of sports. The world-class players are world-class because they do the basics better than anybody else, but they do the basics at high speed under high pressure. That's the differentiator.
Cool.
Can
Got
you-
another question?
Can you teach me the ram shot there?
Right, the best way to break it down is, first of all, we just lollipop some machine balls at the kids at about 55 mile an hour and just got them to stand there and say, right, all you've got to do is make contact with your bat. That's all you got to do. And they were really good at it. And then by the end of it, we were going both ways. And then we're even ramping Yorkers, but also ramping up length. I think ramping up length is the hardest thing because you've got something travelling that way and your bat's travelling that way. I think that's really difficult, but they nailed it now. It was phenomenal. As a coach, that's the stuff you live for. Kids doing something that they think they're not sure about and they walk out thinking, well, the best sessions we've ever done.
Cool. Who's another question?
I have one very thorough question though. How do we deal with, or this is more for youngsters, like their motivation in these kind of times, the mental toughness while you're actually in difficult condition, and the physical fitness to keep on top of that, you know, for young kids to learn, and the attitude to win the match, not like go on the ground and not like have like shoulders dropped, you know, that kind of attitude. How do you deal with that, or how do you instill them like positivity in them or motivate them? Just
I mean, I'm really lucky as a human being. Well, not that I'm 2'3", but in the fact of I am positively motivated and driven. And for me, it's not always about winning because you've got to lose some bits to learn some bits. So you know, I think winning's especially at a young age. Winning is a dangerous word at times unless we put it in the right context. I think learning is miles more important. But I think when you're in a position like you said, though, to win and get over the threshold, that's your chance, you know. And I think for me, the most important thing in any team that you work with and play with is the environment and the culture. Now, the environment and the culture might not be a win at all cost environment culture, but it might be an environment of when we do go out there, we're going to give 100% of what we have to give. Somerset used to use a really good saying that you can't give 100% every day, which is correct, but you can give 100% of what you have to give. So if you've only got 70% in your tank, you're going to give that 70%. And I think if you can support them in the training sessions that you do, I mean, we do lots of things where we'll do low-level stress to build a skill, and then we'll challenge it, and then we'll test it. So as an example, let's say high catching. So we'll do a high catching drill today, and we'll talk about the basics, the body position, the alignment, how we watch the ball. And then we'll train that. And then next week, we'll say, right, what we're going to do today is we'll recap on that so you know what's happening, but then we're going to challenge it. Okay? So the challenge will be 10 catches, you've got to catch 9 out of 10. Otherwise, you've lost and there's a consequence. Now, the exciting part of threat mentality is by creating those consequences, it kicks the alarm bells off in your head, which creates the match scenario. So at a young age, it's hard to create a match scenario, but if you can create a threat scenario, then it kicks the head off. They'll feel that pressure, but it's supported. So the second part of it is if they do get it wrong, there will be a consequence, but you can stop the session at any point and give them advice and support. So you can say, all right, well, halfway through our test now, you've got 5 out of 5. How are you feeling? What have you done really well? Can we keep that going? And then in the third part of it, nothing. Test, threat, consequence, alarm bells going off. Everyone's worried about what might happen. That's cricket. You need one to win. Of course you're going to be scared. You need a wicket off the last ball. We're going to be nervous. But if we put them in those positions before, we've got a real good chance of them making a really good decision under pressure. Now, it's not to say go out tomorrow and scare the crap out of your 9-year-olds, not at all. But what it is if you can start to just gently feed those little things in that let the kids understand that, you know, it's okay to be nervous. It's okay. But if you focus on your process, not the outcome, under pressure, you can go to the process and you can repeat it. I think that for me be the way to go. It keep introducing little bits of threats and little bits of challenges. Also, kids love a challenge. You know, flip it the other way and say, if you guys win, I've got a consequence. You know, at the young age, they'll enjoy that. It's nothing better than seeing the coach bang out 50 press-ups. I'd be there all week. But if you can engage them in those kind of things, then as they develop as maturing players, the fact that they've been there before and they've had that emotion before, they've felt that before, will put them in such a wonderful position under pressure. So when they're playing for your first team in 10 years' time, and they need to slide a Yorker off the last ball to win it, you can put money on them. But if you don't expose them to those challenges, because in the game, that young player might have only ever had 2 chances between the age of 13 and 20 to deliver that. Yeah. Who's to say that you can't do it once every 2 weeks in your training sessions?
Good question,
so I think that'd be creating a little bit of threat, stress, pressure. You know, and you'll know the players you've got where you'll think, I need to be gentle with this because they need a little bit more support. But you know the ones that you think, all right, this person's got the gears. We can nudge this person, you know, and you can really create well-rounded human beings out of it. That's the exciting part. You're not looking after the player. You're looking after the person. You know, you help the person, the player will sort itself out. But also keep thinking about process versus outcome. Process, we can work with that. If we get a little bit outcome win based, it's not always going to work.
That's good. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks. Any more, guys?
Yeah, I've got another one there. So you obviously worked with county teams. So what would you say is maybe the key difference or differences between how professional cricketers train and how just your standard club cricketers train? Maybe like from maybe a intensity perspective or maybe a purpose when they train, kind of.
Yeah, I don't want to stereotype because I know that there are some league cricketers that flipping train hard. You know, my boys and girls at Sheffield Collegiate, they are ruthless. You know, they flipping train their socks off. The difference is it's, I'd say county and international players, they're not afraid of doing the hard yards. And I don't mean that as, you know, rude towards league cricketers, but, you know, they don't mind coming in and facing 90-mile-an-hour bouncers. They'll come and work on that. And I think I'm going to have to name drop, so I do apologise. But Rooty's obviously grown up at Sheffield Collegiate, and there was Ashes probably 3 or 4 years ago. And in between an Ashes test match, him and Butler rocked up at our club. They put a wheelie bin full of water all over the artificial. And they were using yellow indoor training balls. And they were side-arming from a left-arm alignment, bouncing the living daylights out of each other. Because they knew in a week's time, that's what they're going to have to play against. So not being afraid of the uncomfortable. You know, I think the best players will know what's ahead, what's going to be uncomfortable, what's going to be awkward, and then how do they, you know, push themselves to be prepared for that. I think, you know, as league cricketers at time, first thing they'd probably do is rock up on the machine, 65-mile-an-hour half volleys, life's a dream. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. You know, you need to build your confidence up and get going. But, you know, they'll go into the position to say, right then, you know, what is coming ahead? You know, I think the ability to train past and beyond what might be happening, you know, not being, you know, looking at how their game's got to constantly change. You know, I mean, you look at, I mean, I have to use Joe as an example again, but Joe at 15, 16 couldn't get off the square. He literally could not hit it off the square. Now, I know people say that, but I spent a lot of years playing with him. He physically couldn't. Yorkshire under 15s and the 16s were going to drop him because he couldn't score a run, so he couldn't get it past the field. And Yorkshire second team picked him instead. So he was playing county second 11 cricket. He got 50, smashed it everywhere because there was more pace on the ball, more attacking fields, more space for him to get into. So sometimes you have to look at not only how they train, but what's the relevant challenge. So for Joe, he was technically brilliant at a young age, but didn't have the physicality to hit it off the square. But then if you get somebody ball 80 mile an hour, it could deflect you anywhere. So we're very good at, I think one thing we need to be conscious of as well as coaches is we're very good at moving players up. I think we should be able to move players down as well. So think a 15-year-old player that isn't physically robust but is technically good, well, why don't we let him go and play an under-13s, under-14s game and try and dominate that, you know, in a healthy, supported way. I think other sports play up and down. We're very good at going up, but we don't come down sometimes. So I think, you know, we're very good within girls playing in the boys' environment because that's the same thing for them. Some of the girls I have are technically brilliant, but they don't have the physicality. But actually, if I played them up a level, they'd be better. So it's having that flexibility. But just going back to the cricket as a whole, I think the best players are not afraid to push themselves beyond the boundaries. You know, and Joe was a great example of he would go and find, he still does it now. I mean, if he wanted to be a better spin bowler, he'd go and find the best spinners and go and talk to them. If he wanted to be a better opening batter, he'd go and talk to the best opening batters in the country. If he wanted to be a better fielder, he'd go and talk to other fielders. If he wanted to be better, you know, strength and condition, he'd go and speak to the players that have played a lot of cricket and are physically robust. He's an absolute cricket badger. He'd talk to him more about cricket than I would. He's ridiculous. But he's very good at going and finding people. You know, I think that's what the best players do. You know, the best players go and talk to other good players to say, right, what do I need to do? And not being afraid to push themselves, you know, past the very uncomfortable boundaries. I think as league cricketers, we're very reluctant to do that. Or we stick to our methods. And you can be very good at league cricket and be a limited player. But if you thought, well, if I want to be that little bit better, what else do I need to do?
Yeah, cool. Nice question, Dee.
I think.
Anybody else got any fresh ones for Simon?
I think Niall Donnelly has a question.
Speak up, Niall. Are you on mute?
You're on mute, lads.
Hi, this is
You're on mute,
for
boys.
range hitting, which is more important, finding the middle of the bat or actually getting power?
Oh, just tell me that again. I heard a little bit about range hitting. Did you say what's more important, range hitting or?
Yeah, for range hitting, which is more important, finding the middle of the bat or getting power through it?
I think what he's saying there, Simon, is within range hitting, is it more important to find the middle of the bat or create the power?
Tricky one. I mean, if you get the middle of the bat, it's going somewhere. If you have great strength and great power, it's going somewhere. Let's just do both. I think for me as well is, I think range hitting and power hitting is wonderful. I'm 2'3", and you'll be surprised, but I can clear the ropes. You know, I think what you've got to think about is, like all the other skills you work on, the basic fundamentals are the most important thing. Am I balanced? Are my eyes level? Am I creating a good, strong base to strike from? So even though we all think it's great, it is. But if you watch the best players do it, you know, they have the real core fundamentals in play. So I would say, look, you're looking for both. Bat speed will help. So if you do get it just off the middle, strong base to strike from, bat speed, hit drive into contact will get you the extra bit. Now the difference with the best players, I would say, is if you look at your league cricketers, if they're not quite strong enough, they have to hit the middle of the bat. I would say is the best players, because they are so strong, they can get away with just missing the centre and it will still go for 6. And that's the argument of should bats go back to being a bit thinner again or not. Personally, I like seeing people whack it out the ground, just make the boundaries bigger. You know, I grew up on Yorkshire League pitches, which are massive, so it's okay for me. But when you're playing on small villages, it is a bit unfair because you can hit it with a bat handle for 6. But I would say is if you've got your good basics in play, you can get away with just missing the centre. If your basics are poor, you're going to hit the centre every single time. So just think, strong base to hit, balance, bat speed, hit drive into contact, There's loads of wonderful drills. Also, play about with it as well. I use a lot of hurling sticks here. So Julian Wood, who does a lot of power hitting with England, when you're looking for hand speed, hurling sticks are phenomenal. There's loads of little fun playtime drills that I'd expect all you guys and girls out there must have a hurling stick. Get it out, let your hands fly really fast. Because if you can then get your strong base and your hip drive and then stick some wonderful hand speed onto it, geez, mate, it doesn't matter what bit about you hit, it's going out the ground. I mean, Butler's a great example of that. His hand speed is phenomenal. But here's an argument for you. Whenever you've seen Butler strike a ball, when is he not balanced? I can't find one.
No.
I mean, Stokesy can slightly get away with it because he's built like a flipping machine. But even if he is slightly off balanced, you'll find there's a reason for him being off balanced. He's off balanced because he's trying to react to something to go the opposite way. So if you see him fall slightly offside, it's because he's intending to pick it up into free space, or it might be a short boundary. But it's when they are off balance slightly, it's because they're taking the hit on something. They're willing to gamble something to win something. But if you see them striking it down the ground, the bases that they hit from are phenomenal. So baseball bats as well. Baseball bats, hurling sticks. We have weighted balls as well, so we can get some real strong impact on the ball. So there's loads of fun things you can do, but I would say you get your basics, get all them in play, then get the middle of the bat, then land it on someone's car. Not your own, obviously, someone else's.
Another question there, guys. Ross, do you have a question?
Yeah, how are you? Yeah, like it's evolved a lot over the last decade or so, and I do a bit of coaching as well along with Andy, and I'm just wondering, how has it changed how you coach kids at a young level? Now, you've touched on that the fundamentals are still the most important things, like balance, for example, in batting. So I'm just wondering, at what point or how has it changed underage coaching, and at what point do you really get the kids to experiment a bit more than they probably would have used to in yesteryears? So yeah, just from all the skills aspect, how has it changed, and when would you introduce this variety? Like, you see bowlers bowling so many different types of balls, batters hitting, around the ground. When would you really instill that?
Well, look, I think that's a brilliant question, that, by the way. Brilliant question. I think don't be afraid to get it in ASAP. Why not? If the kids are going to go away in the back garden and play with their mates and try all these things, why not do it at your place? They're going to be supported. There's going to be other people to learn from. I would say kids are excitable. They're intelligent. You've got to be a salesman. In the fact of, if you say to one of your players, as soon as you can play from a balanced position, I'm going to teach you how to ramp it, or I'm going to teach you how to lap slog it for 6. I'm pretty sure they'll be mad keen to get the basics. And I think if you sell it, you think risk and reward, I think you've got them on board. And don't be afraid to do some back of the hand sessions. I mean, I do it with my kids all the time. You might have somebody, you know what, they're not going to be 99 mile an hour and they swing it away nicely. But you know what, a nice little off cut or a leg cut, a change up ball might be really interesting. What I do a lot is I get them to try everything. So if we were doing, right, we're doing change up balls today, right, give me a list of what change up options we got. And we'll write it on the whiteboard. Right, back of the hand ball, off cutter, leg cutter, knuckle ball, or whatever else you can think of. And then we'll say, right, all you're allowed to bowl in this lane is that lane is that lane. Right, and then when we come back in and say, right, which one did you like? Oh, I was really good at the back of the handball. Brilliant. Right, there we go. That's yours. What were you good at? Oh, off cutter. It just seemed very natural. We have lots of, I find people that, we don't see many that push the ball in anymore, but that is just set up already for a leg cutter. So I think the guy come out small and used to play with us many years ago, he used to bowl slow in duckers, and his variation was a leg cutter because you roll down the side of it. And I think everyone will find a ball that they think, oh gosh, I'm really good at that one. But you've got to let them try it all, because they might think, you know what, I'm good at off cutter, leg cutter, back of the handball. Mate, you're a magician, but then they can go away and play with it. So, but I would say is try and sell it. Say, right, if we can, this week, we're just going to work on our run-up. Okay, we're going to work on our position at the crease because that's the business area. When we get really good at that, we're going to get excitable. So as soon as all of you can nail this, we're going to go and do some funky stuff and then come back to the basics. Because they're going to go and do it somewhere. They might as well do it in an environment that can support them, help them, give them lots of ideas, because then they'll take it home and play with it, but they'll have loads of more information to help them with it. So I'd say don't be afraid, because we can't hide from it as coaches. If they're seeing the best players in the world do it, they're going to copy it. So at least you might as well try and give them some information that gives them a better chance. So yeah, don't be afraid. I would say old-fashioned coaching used to be very afraid of that. We've got to do this, we've got to do that. Well, you know, look at some of the funky players nowadays that come up and just whoop it out the ground, and you think, how did you do that? Or some of the balls that people bowl it. Muller Etheridge was a great example. I think it was about, he used to practice his douche. I mean, Muller Etheridge is a machine. If they had a 2-hour training session, he would be there an hour and a half, 2 hours before doing his drills. And then when the session finished, he'd still be there for the 2 hours afterwards. And I think they said he spent about 4 years bowling his douche before he bowled it in a game. And let's be honest, he bowled it okay. But he spent 4 years proving that skill before he released it in a game. You know, so you think, well, what if somebody had allowed him to play with that at age 10 rather than play with it at age 15? So I'd say, don't be afraid. The kids are going to do it. Give them good information. Allow them to, you know, be exposed. But when it happens in a game, then don't go at them. Ask them why. Why'd you do that? I've got a lad who plays for me. Bless him. He's a keeper, so he's off the scale anyway. But his ramp is better than his forward defence. But I mean, my arguments with him at times, or discussions with him at times, are he got out last year playing a ramp. It had got him one because the spine leg down. You could have played a forward defence back to the ball and still pinched a single. So you think risk and reward. So it's not that we don't want you to play it. We needed to work out when's the time to play it. Now, if he'd have said, I played that shot because there was no one there and I was guaranteed a 4 and it's one of my strong shots, I'd have said, mate, I am all over that. If you got out doing that, you were taking a medium risk for a high reward. That's perfectly fine. But he took a high risk for a low reward. And it's just, that's the next step. Once they start doing these things, why are we doing that? It's like the guy, when you need one to win, or let's say you need one to win off 10 balls, and they try to hit a 6 and get out, and you think, you could have just stayed patient. But remember, when we were young, we weren't patient either. That's one thing to think about as a coach. If you're lucky enough to still be able to look backwards when you were a player and what you felt like and what you did, that's always a really good tool to keep in your back pocket, that. Because we were prats once as well, and we were stupid. So
dangle it as a carrot. So tell them, work on the fundamentals. You get it right.
Oh, I'd say, honestly,
experimentation.
Kids are ridiculously intelligent, but if you dangle a flipping bar of chocolate in front of them, they are all over you. I promise you. And that's the thing. Or even it's a case of, you might simplify it. You might even say, bring it into your session. You might say, you might do half an hour on your bowling and say, right, you've now got 6 balls and you've got to bowl a slow ball. Don't care what it is. And then tell me what ball it is. So you've got that. And then you then might finish off going back to your 10 minutes of basics. So they've had really good information here that you want them to nail. They've had a playtime here, and then they've finished with good information here. So they're going home with the good information, but they've had some exciting bits as well.
That's cool. Yeah, thank you.
Next one. Who we got?
One thing, just when you're saying there, kind of, let's say the player plays that ramp, high risk shot for low reward, and he gets out, and then you might have the conversation with him about, like, was it the right option? Like, when would you recommend is the best time to have that conversation with the player? Would you wait kind of until the training session, maybe a few days after the game, or do you think it's better to do it in the now?
I'm really lucky in the fact of, I mean, I've been coaching 26 years now, so I've had experience of getting that right and getting that wrong. So I'm really lucky. I would say the key skill there is know the beast. Know the beast that you're working with. If you think that person would respond really well from immediate information, give it them. If you think they're the kind of person where I'll just give them 24 hours to go away and then we'll have a conversation, then do that. I think with Robbo, because he's a lovely lad, but he's a bit of a ditz in the head. I thought, if I leave it 24 hours, all the really good information he's probably got right now will have got. So you used to have a window between 24 and 48 hours anyway. So any information that we've got right now, without sounding rude, in about 2 or 3 days' time, if you tried to pull that back out your head, it probably won't be there, unless you've made some notes or you collected information that's important to you. That's not. You totally ought to get your notepads out now, but that's kind of how it works. So for him, it was the case of just walked around the ground and said, "Come on, then talk me through it." Nothing nasty about it. The young people, they're going to get it wrong. You've got to accept that. Just said, "Come on, talk me through it." Well, I thought it was on. Okay, well, tell me why you thought it was on. Well, I was looking for, okay, that's great. So then when he's given me his information, I just drop a few little bits in. Did you realise fine leg was there? Oh, I didn't really think about that. Okay, well, that's interesting. Why didn't you think about that? Well, I don't know. I just went to the shot that's my best shot. I said, that's a really good point, that, because it is a really good shot of yours. But think about how many runs would that have got you and what other options could you have gone for? Oh, yeah, if I'd have thought about it, I could have gone for that option or that option, couldn't I? Awesome. Job done. And then the argument then is say, right, so next time you're in that position, try and think about what your easier options. And then if you did it again, step 3 would have been is just to let you know, if you make that decision under pressure again, you'll be dropped down the order. Because you can't keep accepting being the fool all the time. We have to encourage learning, and we're supporting that. But then we got to go back to, why is the guy after you just gone and got 10 out of 10 balls? Why should he bat lower than you if you're not willing to commit to what we're kind of developing? But give him a chance first. But I mean, back to your question, was the fact to manage each human being as an individual.
Yeah, thanks.
Because it might be that you might do both.
Yeah.
You might have to walk and say, you tell me what you think. And then you might say, that's brilliant, thanks for sharing that. And then you might say, all right, well, let's have a chat tomorrow at break. And they might say, right, on reflection to all that wonderful information you gave me, here's a little bit more information from me. You take that away, have a little think, and then I'd love to see you again tomorrow and tell what else you think.
Yeah.
Cool. Do we have Daniel Kennedy online?
No.
No. Okay.
We've
Brenda, you have a question, Brenda?
Yeah, sorry, Daniel's phone just went out of battery, so he's trying to put it back on charge. I did want to ask, if you're dealing with 16 and 17-year-olds who, bearing in mind they wouldn't have had the experience that the English players would have had in terms of games and exposure to practice, we're finding it very difficult to keep them engaged with their commitment to training and participating in everything the club has to offer. What do you suggest is best with that age group to keep them engaged in cricket?
Yeah, it's an interesting, I think we find it's even harder in women's cricket as well. The girls get to that age where A-levels, start seeing boys, maybe get a part-time job. So it's even harder in the female game. So I totally understand. I mean, we are really looking, because I could just play cricket 7 days a week if I wanted to. Whereas I know in Ireland, it's just really different and you're not as luxurious as we are. I would say, I mean, me as a coach, I'd be interested to know, why do you play? What do you like about cricket? Why do you play cricket? What are the things that you might find challenging? What are the things that you might really enjoy? And then I think reminding them of those, because cricket can be a tough sport, because you might be playing, you might be in the best form of your life, then you might have got run out by your mate, you've got a bad LB from the worst umpire ever, and then it's rained off next week and you've done nothing for 4 weeks, and it's horrible. Yeah, it's ridiculous. There's no other sport like it. But I think for me, it's like when I work with players at times, I'm interested, well, I'm more interested in them, to be honest. I want to know more about them. And I think one real question is, when you're looking to implement change on some players, is you talk about what is your end goal? Do you want to play cricket for England? Do you want to play cricket for a county? Or do you just want to play because you blooming enjoy it? If they say, I just want to play because I really enjoy it, then I would handle that person very differently to the one that says, I want to play international cricket. So if they say, I want to play because I enjoy it, I think there is a level of commitment that they can live within. They might not be as committed. But if somebody says to me, I want to play cricket, I want to play for Ireland, and I say, right, and have a chat. These are the levels that you need to be meeting. These are the commitments you need to be looking to give. And then just have a look at their lifestyle. Then, okay, well, what might challenge this? What do we need to change? Or what can I support you with as a coach? Do I need to change my time as a coach to fit around your other wants and needs? I think that's looking at a little bit at what's going on in their life, what's going on in Cork Cricket Club's life, what's going on in their coach's life, and see do they all match up. Because sometimes you might get a coach here that thinks this person can play for Ireland, and you've got the player over here that says, I just like playing with my mates. You've got a bit of a mismatch there. So I'd say make sure we've got the information first and we're all in agreement of what direction we want to go in. Because some people might want to go that way and some want to go that way. So although
yeah, that's the secret. I think your answer is absolutely accurate in that they're a mixed bunch and it depends what they want. That's very, very spot on.
It just goes to back, like I say, I'm not a fan of coaching the player. I like to coach the person. I find it miles more interesting as well, but I think depth of knowledge is really key, because there are times, I mean, I've got some people that are very introverted and very extroverted, and I try and spin them. So I have an introverted lad who I've worked with for many years now, and there are some times when I'll say, I need an answer from you in 30 seconds. As an introvert, that is just not enough time for him to process the bits. But then I'll also say, right, come back to me in 24 hours with this. And I know that'll suit him. He'll go away on his own space and reflect, and he'll do his bits. But I think we have to nudge people both ways. But to be able to do that, you've got to know the people really, really well. And then that comes down to your coach. Invest time. And you'll love it. So much more rewarding.
Cool. Nice question, Brenda.
I think Brian Donnelly has a question.
Yeah. Hi, Simon. I mentioned you played rugby as a kid, yeah? I was wondering, what did you bring from cricket into rugby and vice versa?
Good question. Can you guess? You get one guess. Can you guess what position I played as an under 15?
Scrum half.
Not a bad call. That wasn't till I was older. I played in the front row at 15. I was a hooker. All angry little wicket keepers play there. For me, rugby and cricket came at a really good time. As you've already told you, both my brothers were great young cricketers, and they played football. And that wasn't really my thing. So at about 12 or 13, I just started keeping wicket. I also just started playing rugby. And at the age of 15, I played county cricket and county rugby. I think that for me, the things that really helped was the fact that from a rugby point of view, I think you get used to getting knocked over and getting back up again. You know, you've got to manage yourself. I think in cricket, it's like, for instance, like getting your poles knocked over. You just got to get up and get fighting again. From a fitness point of view, it was great for me because at the end of the cricket season, you look forward to rugby season. End of the rugby season, you look forward to the cricket season. So it was nice to have those transitions. So, I mean, I'm a massive fan of recommending play as many sports as you can for as long as you can, because there are so many things you can pinch. I would say the best thing for me at that age was being fitter, being stronger, being more robust, which meant I could play cricket 7 days a week. You know, think how many squats you're getting as a wicketkeeper playing 7 days a week. It's a lot of squats. All right, and think about just also the ability to avoid injury as well. The fitter you are, the more athletic you are, the more injuries you avoid. Think about cricket as a mental game as well. If you are fatigued and you're tired, what's the first thing that shuts down? Your brain. You know, cricket is a sport made around making the right decision under high pressure at high speed. If you're fatigued and you're tired and your brain's shutting down, you can't make any decision. So they are the things that help me. Looking back on it now as well, think about all the movement positions from lots of different sport. So think about if you pick the ball up out the back of the scrum and you're going to pass it out to the number 10, what position are you in on the floor? You're in a strong, balanced, stable base. Now you put a bat in your hand and stand in the same position, you're in a great position to whack it out the ground. So there's lots of really good positions that you can adopt. Think about setting up in the front row. Just think about your squat position. All right, if I'm now at slip or if I'm keeping wicket, that is a world-class position to be in. So there's loads of different sports. Think about hockey, short corner. When you're flicking that out, your base on the floor is exactly the same as it would be for a straight drive or a sweep shot. There's loads of sports carry lots of real good replications. Think about hockey with hand speed as well. Like, I think any one of you out there that's doing your hurling stuff, you want to get some of your hurling drills into your cricket, you'd be amazed how far you'll whack it.
I just noticed a couple of times there, Simon, where you were moving your hands around. Just put your hands up to the screen and show me fingers.
Like my hands are in great order. My dad's are horrendous, but I'm all right.
Yeah, your index finger on your left hand looks like a number 9.
Yeah. My dad's were miles worse. I mean, that was one of my looks. I mean, I'm 5'7", but I have absolutely massive hands. I caught many in the middle, but that was a helpful tool for being a wicket keeper. I think that's one thing coaches to bear in mind working with your keepers, how flipping hard it is as a 9, 10, 11-year-old trying to catch the ball when your gloves are that big. It's flipping hard work. I'd say if you can get your keepers in a good position in line with the ball, you're winning. You know, when the hands get bigger and they get bigger gloves on, honestly, life's miles easier. It is flipping hard work at a young age catching balls with gloves on. Because even if you look at the shape of the way.
Yeah, no. I was, you obviously knowing you a long time, and your dad was an immense. How? I mean, in that picture there from us earlier on, your dad must have been in his 40s there keeping wicket.
Yeah. I mean, he's 120 now, so he's. Yeah, I mean, my dad. I mean, he says you're a long time retired, which you are, but yeah, I mean, he's a good example there. If you're looking at head, hands, and feet, and my dad was keeping wicket there at a slightly mature age, but he also had no cartilage in his knees for about 15, 20 years, which is not ideal. But by the way, you missed that ball by a mile, mate. You threw that shot so early.
A bit early, very early.
But he was of a good age when he finished, and he enjoyed it. He played because he loved it, and I think that's one thing we could recommend to everybody. If you don't love it, or you're not passionate about it, you should maybe give yourself a breather. I think Andre Agassi was an example of that. He had a year out of tennis because he kind of lost love with it, and he came back in a year's time because that love had grown again, and he came back and was still world number 1 as well. So I think cricket's so brutal with its ups and downs that you need to try and find a level power as much as you can. So the highs are okay, the lows are okay. If you're up here and down there, it's not an ideal sport to be involved in.
Yeah. Question, do you have anything, Steve Ross? Do you have a question for Simon?
Yeah, I do actually, yeah. I'm not sure if we're over time. I was actually quite late, so apologies if this question's already been asked. So maybe someone can tell me afterwards if it has. But I've been doing a little bit of coaching recently, just learning a few things. And one of the things we come up at our club is, for the youth especially, is around the hard ball versus the soft ball. Now, it's interesting because we've got a lot of players who are at different levels and different age groups. We're trying to prepare them for the older grades as much as we can, but we also don't want to scare them off or, promote injuries. It's quite an interesting subject because we've got so many players that want to play hardball, but then others aren't ready for it. I guess more guidance on when do you think a good time is to introduce that and when a good time is to not. And is it, do you introduce it by a player? Obviously, we've got limited coaches, so we have to do quite big group drills. So it's hard to just isolate the groups for people that are ready for hardball. So I just want to know, do you have any guidance on when that time is right?
Yeah, it's a brilliant coaching question, that, especially with clubs. It's difficult. I mean, we were lucky when we kind of grew up that the fact if you had a cricket ball, or you had nothing. So you kind of had no choice. And if anything, I'd say that made life a lot easier. Now you've got ping balls, tennis ball, cricket, where you've got so many variations. I think, are you able to put players in a position where they can just play wind ball cricket and they can play hardball cricket? Or, because you could argue it's not necessarily an age thing. It's are their skill levels ready for it? You'll have one young lad who's probably dad's played first team cricket or mum's played it the whole life, and they've just grown up with hardball and they're used to it. Yet you'll have someone of the same age who's never seen a hardball in their life, and it's difficult. I'd say maybe why don't you look at it as a club in the fact of why not sit down with all your coaches? So, sorry to be rude, do you go 10s, 13s, or what age groups do you work with?
Yeah, this kind of keeps changing, but we have kind of, I guess, an under 9 or maybe like under 7s, then under 11s and under 13s. So we're trying to put them into 2-year groups, but it's, as I say, you've got children who are, you know, tall on the age of 13 who are probably not ready for the next year. You've got kids who are 9 who are possibly ready for a hardball. So, but it's just, we don't want to put children or 12 and 13-year-old kids in with the under 8s because they're all playing with so I guess it's just really hard to come up with a general pattern. And maybe if we had 6 coaches, we could put them into groups. We only have 2 or 3, so and you got 30, 40 kids. It's hard to kind of know how to separate. I guess maybe I'd say the phrase is there a point when we shouldn't do it? Maybe it's or is there a signal where we go, definitely we have to get those children ready for the hardball because otherwise they're going to miss out. They'll be scared of it for the rest of their lives type thing. So is there maybe some signals you could give us? It's really hard to, to generalize, but any signals that you can help with maybe benefit?
Well, I would say the good thing is with all your skills that you're delivering, you can do it tennis ball, wing ball, incredible cricket ball. So you can have all running at the same time. I would say is if I was you as a club, I'd put some protocols in place that say, what do we all agree that we need to get them hardball ready for? And we all buy into that as a collective to say, right, by the time they're 11 years old, one of our main club influences and protocols is they are cricket ball ready. In the fact of, all right, so what skills do they need to do then? So they need to be able to catch a hard ball. They need to be able to pick a hard ball up cleanly. They need to be able to bat ball. So you could give yourself a list of protocols to say, if we believe as a club by the age of 13, whatever you want, by the age of 13, these are the skills that they should have to be ready for moving forwards, to be part of, not to be part of our club, sorry, to be ready to play the cricket that will be ahead of them. I think that'd be that'd be a very proactive thing to do. And then what you could say is, all our coaching pattern now, between the age of 7s and 9s or 10s, the focus is that. That's it. Don't care if you win or lose. I think the biggest issue for me at times is, I'm not saying you have this, by the way, coaches between the age of 7 and 11 winning. I do not give a flyer. I care if you learn. And I would argue to say that your exposure in that period, 7 to 11, should be about what do you believe as Cork Cricket Club will put your junior players in the best position when they are playing 13s, 15s, 17s and senior cricket. And I would say your remit of junior structure there should be solely about preparing them for what is coming ahead. So I would say is sit with your coaches and say, right, what are the skills that we need? So let's say by the age of 11, I mean, you can even make it as like a certificate, right? You passed your fielding challenge, you passed your batting challenge, you passed your bowling challenge. Kids love that. So say that, are you able to bowl 6 balls, full and straight, within a region of whatever that, it could be as big as you want, but are they able to do that? And if not, you can focus on that. Your fielding challenge might be is the ability to take a high catch, the ability to take a flat catch, the ability to stop a ball cleanly on the floor. And that might be it. And you start them off with tennis balls, then you whack them onto your incredis, then you put them onto your cricket balls. And it could be at a stage that you go through that, right, our fielding stations today are tennis ball group there, wing ball group there, hard ball group there. And that way you've got your 3 coaches, but you can have the ages between 7 and 13, but all you're doing is not splitting them by age or ability. You're splitting them by where they sit right now. Are you able to manage the cricket ball yet? Are you able to manage a wing ball yet? Are you able to manage a tennis ball yet? And you might be able to split your coaches a bit better like that. But you could use it as your tick box. Right, you are in a position now of you have met all Cork's Cricket Club junior remits for under 13s. Bang, bang, bang. It might be a good way to focus your structure. But I think it is tricky. Totally agree with you. But I think if you put a plan in place, you'll be surprised. You'll make it happen. And the argument is, it's not about making the best players in the world. It's about preparing the kids to play the game that they'll hopefully enjoy as much as we do.
Yeah, look, it's tough. I mean, on an evening, you know, when we have the young ones down at the club, we could have anything up to 60 kids, and this is tends to be on a Friday evening when some of the coaches aren't available, so it is difficult to split them into groups. I think you've come up with some amazing sort of ideas there for us to grab a hold of, and you're right. As a club, we need to decide when we introduce them to hardball cricket, 100%. Lots of things for us to work on there, absolutely. And I think as a team of coaches that we have at the club, and we are very lucky, we do have a few. It's just that everybody's so far spread within the club and within the sort of boundaries of Cork as a county. It's not always easy to get everybody there at the same time. So it's tough, you know. Great ideas, and I think there's lots of things we can implement there within the coaching. And I think, you know, you're right. We need to sit down and say, at this age group, they should be playing hardball cricket.
Then once you work out your age, you've got to go backwards then to say, right, what do we need to do to help support them and prepare them? I think one good thing, don't be afraid to get the parents on board. Once you've got your list of ideas or what you Cork's protocols or whatever you want to call it, our development structure, whatever it might be, sit all the parents down and say, look, we think this is what we feel, this is what we like to implement. As parents, do you see any problems with that? Do you foresee any challenges with that? Because they all say, no, that's brilliant, you've got them. They're in. If they say, yeah, no, that's great, then when little Johnny is with the windball group, not with the hardball group, and the parent says, well, what you doing? You would and that's the skill. If you can, don't be afraid to be honest with people. Jesus Christ, it's the best thing you can do.
No, there's lots of things we can do. Listen, guys, we've been at this an hour and 15 minutes. I know we could do this for another couple of hours. Do we have a question from Joubert before we try and tie this up a little bit?
No, I think you just about covered everything. All the questions I had in my head, you basically answered them through the other ones. So I think I'm good to go. Thanks a lot, Simon.
Oh, thanks, mate.
I just have one more question there. I'd be curious to know who taught Andy this cover drive.
Andy's never known where the covers are in his entire life, to be honest. So
it was a switch hit.
Yeah, I think you call it his trademark shot, which I'm sure he's brought over to Ireland. He classed that as a defence, a backward defence, a pull shot, a sweep shot, and everything else you can think of as well. It's just one size fits all. I think that sums him up brilliant.
Multi-purpose. Multi-purpose.
Something like that.
Yeah, straight elbow. Yeah.
I've got a couple of little bits here, just a little bit of a quick fire question for you, Simon, here. And this is, I just want you to choose one of these going through, yeah?
Go for it.
Abbeydale or Scarborough?
Oh, I'm going to have to go Scarborough because it's just a phenomenal place when it's packed out.
Yeah. Roast beef or chicken?
It depends. If I'm doing the beef and it's rare, then I'll go beef. If it's not blue, chicken.
Liverpool or Man United?
Football's for dickheads. Carry on.
Motorbikes or mountain bikes?
Oh, motorbikes any day.
Here's one. Is your missus close by? Can she hear?
She's just out the way. We might get away with it.
Are you ready? Ully dinner or romantic dinner?
Oh, gosh. I'd have to say romantic dinner because there's only parts of the Ully dinner I can remember. You know more than me because you picked up out of the bush.
Superman or Batman?
Oh, Batman. Bit more character.
Yeah. That gives you a little insight into a professional cricketer's brain there, guys. And just a few little, these are the best questions. Who's the best sweeper you've ever seen?
Oh, best sweeper. I mean, when I was young, the only shot I had as a batter against spin, but best sweeper.
As a keeper, you must have seen lots of people up close at who's the best sweeper you've seen play.
ironically, I'd agree with it. I think the best players of spin, looking back 10 years, don't sweep because there's so many other options. They whack it back down the ground. But now, because it's such a good option, I think Joe's become better and better and better at it now. He's phenomenal. I mean, he did some work here, and he was sweeping Yorkers, half volleys, and he sweeps the best ball now. When you watch him bat next, if you see him do a backward sweep, so obviously a conventional sweep sees you coming here, he does a sweep shot now where he goes there and sweeps it. It is absolutely ridiculous. So rather than having to bowl a good ball, it's his way of knocking a good ball out the attack. You think, who the hell does that to a good ball? So when they just nick back of a length, he goes backwards and makes it almost like a short ball. It is honestly amazing to see.
Who's the best roommate you've ever had?
Oh gosh, I liked when I got a bit older. I was on my own. I kept out of trouble then. Trying to think. Don't know. People like Sidebottom are good fun because he'd be doing his hair all night. But I think my favourite one is my best mate, which is Craig White, because we used to have a couple of beers together and look after each other.
Good man. Who's the best bowler you've ever kept to? And you can't say me.
It's impossible, that. Best bowler. I can call the fastest one. So this is Craig White, 97.5 mile an hour. Jeez. And he used to reverse it in as well. He was flipping hard work at Headingley back in the day because he used to have loads of cracks. So some balls would go like that, some would go like that. So he was the fastest. But then when you got on telly, you had people like Goffey and Silverwood all trying to beat it. So they all, like Goffey would bowl a ball, and then he'd look up at the radar to find out what it clock. And then he'd go back to he was forgetting about the game. He was just interested in what the radar said. So he was constantly trying to break 90 mile an hour. Which was a good effort. He's only a small bloke, but I can't.
Whitey? Craig White?
I'm going to have to go just for speed. I mean, he was just scary. He just ambled up and then just went. But the best thing about him is he started off as a wicket-keeper batsman for Australia under-19s.
Right.
Then he was a batter for Yorkshire who bowled a bit of off-spin. Then he bowled a bit of seam in the next. They said you should give it a go. Then ended up playing Test cricket, one-day cricket. It was at one point the fastest white man.
Yeah, good man. Who was the biggest changing room prankster?
Oh, Anthony McGrath by a mile.
Yeah.
Anthony, he's now head coach of Essex. Oh, honestly, probably one of the funniest men I have ever seen. But prankster we used to have a guy called the Snipper. Now, he used to go around the dressing room, the Snipper. No one ever really knew who he was. There was probably a few people. And they'd snip the coach's socks. When the coach put his socks on, the socks would come up here. They'd snip his pants as well. So he'd pull your pants, somebody come up. Every game, we once had to sit down, I think it was at Hampshire. We sat down for 3 hours outside. No one was allowed to go anywhere. This is in the middle of the field before a game. Sat there for 3 hours, the day before a game. No one was allowed to go until they said who the snipper was. And everyone was sat there for 3 hours. He used to do the captains, the coaches, management staff. It was just absolutely brilliant. It went on for years. It was hilarious.
And who's the best spinner that you've ever kept to?
Oh, sugar. I'd say it's a toss-up between Adil Rashid and Richard Dawson. You know, both going different ways, but Dawson was phenomenal. Rash was good fun because any leg is just exciting, just loads of fun. So I was lucky at one point we had a leg at each end at Yorkshire, which was Mark Lawson as well. We were very different style of bowlers, but yeah, any time you keep into a leg, it's loads of fun because you're involved in every ball. I mean, I was lucky. If you flip it the other way, the people I played against. So I played against Muller Ithrin, Warne, Mushtaq Ahmed, Sakale Mushtaq, Stuart McGill, Arnold Cumbley. Honestly, nearly all the spinners in world cricket I came across, it was just out of this world. It was just phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, listen, Si, it's been amazing. Thank you very, very much for giving us your time. We'll try and repay you by getting you over to the club to do a bit of a session with us if we can get you back this year.
Yeah, we get over and see you all. I'm a massive, massive fan of Ireland, full stop anyway, so it'd be lovely to come over and spend some time with you all.
Yeah, listen, Simon, thank you very, very much. I'm sure the boys have enjoyed that, and hopefully we can try and do something like that again sometime. It's been great fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, at the moment I'm doing bugger all, so I'm available. I'd love to do it again. But if anyone's got a question or something that we missed out they'd like to know a bit more about, feel free, drop us an email or something. I'll always get back to you. Don't worry about that.
Cool.
Nice
Simon, you're a star. Thanks very much, buddy.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you,
mate.
Simon.
Bye bye.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
Cheers, up.